What is up, players? It's Warboss Tay up in this mug. Look at this Crusader Bloodmere character. Everything about this sculpt is really nicely done, from the holes in the belt across his chest to the design on his breastplate. Of course, the expression and the one does not simply hand. I mean, this is such a beautiful model, and it's from Artel W Miniatures. I'm going to put a link below in the description if you want to check out the Brotherhood of the Nine, where you can find Crusader Bloodmere. Of course, you could just pick this miniature up on its own. I think they sell them individually, but why not get the entire fellowship? The Tree of Gondor on his shield, on the back, a little nod to the literary reference and the cinematic reference where this model is taken from. I mean, his expression, his face, it really does look like Sean Bean in the movie. Again, this is from Artel W Miniatures, and the link will take you directly to this page where you can take a look at the miniatures that come in this set. You could purchase one for yourself to use in your games of Warhammer 40k. They would make great agents of the Imperium. You could use the 5 halfling sharpshooters as rattling snipers, and they would just also make great miniatures to paint and practice your skills on, especially if you are a Lord of the Rings fan. I really love it. And for a little while longer, Artel W Miniatures is holding their Love is in the Air sale. You could also find that in the description of my video, where they've paired a male and a female figure, and you can pick them up at a discount. It's like a great way, if you've never purchased anything from Artel W, to see what the quality of their sculpt is like without going into investing a whole lot of money into picking up a squad or a big force of their miniatures. It's a great way to see how the models come together, the high quality resin that they use. I mean, I would suggest, if you've never purchased anything from Artel W, take a look at these. You might find some miniatures that you like that you can use in your own armies, or miniatures that just look like so much fun to paint. That's what I do. All right, so we're going to take a look at what comes in the bag here of your Crusader Bloodmere character. You got a 25mm round base. Then you've got an individually wrapped baggie. This is great, especially if you get a bundle where you get a bunch of different figures. They've packaged all of the parts, all of the alternative arms and heads and weapons. This is really good so that you don't have to worry about mixing pieces together, because a lot of these are very similar, especially like the halfling sharpshooters are very similar scale, or even Bloodmere here and the Aragorn character Rogue Strider. They're very similar scale, so you don't want to mix and match their arms and legs. You want to keep them separate. Here is the detail on the Tree of Gondor shield. Great little details like the skull rivets, as well as the purity seals on it. Then here's the torso. There's a little bit of flash right there at the front. I'm gonna have to clip that off and clean it up, but look at the detail, everything down to the individual plates. I mean, it's just so well done and well sculpted. Now, you might think that's a little flash right there on the bottom of the torso. That's actually the wedge that slots into that part of the legs. Of course, it's not gonna fit until I clip off this piece of flash, but there is a little pocket for that wedge to slide right into. And you've got the Horn of Gondor. Now, obviously, that's the one you would normally go with if you're not going to be a cheeky bugger like myself and go with the one does not simply hand. But the Horn of Gondor looks great, the detail on the front of it. Of course, it's called something else in universe, but I'm going to call it what I think it looks like. The Horn of Gondor. Since I'm not going to be using it, it's going back in the bag. As well as the ancient sword here. Now, this was a little bit of a debate in my head. Do I want to go with the classic looking sword or a chain sword? And I think because he's got so much other science fiction accoutrements on him, I'm going to go with the chain sword. Just, it looks cooler. It's got a little bit of a banner across the front that I could do some script on. And it looks like a Games Workshop chain sword. I'm painting a bunch of Blood Angels right now, and everything about this chainsword, like the engine, the handle, the pommel, it looks legit. It looks real, like identical to a Games Workshop chainsword. So it looks really good. And here is the regular scowling, I would call this the cannon head for this miniature. Of course, you can also, interestingly enough, build him with like a Kasserkin helmet, like a stormtrooper helmet. It looks really good. But since I'm not going to be using either of those heads, into the bits bag they go. Now I think this scale is a little bit different from a Games Workshop Imperial Guard, but what I'm going to do is, after I've built up all of these miniatures, I'm going to take all these bits that I'm not using and I'm going to put them on some Cadian shock troopers, just see if they scale up correct. Then, of course, the one does not simply hand. I used to watch a show called like Ink Masters or Tattoo Masters something. One episode they were trying to sketch out a hand and praying hands. They said you could really tell the quality of an artist by how well they do the hands, the proportions, the fingers and everything. And of course here is the head, the face, the expression, so good. Anyways, the hand is great, fingers are all great, it all looks terrific. When you compare them to the old Cadian shock troopers, yeah, the old Cadian shock troopers' hands looked really cartoony, like Mickey Mouse gloves. So I've got my little paint palette thing there where I put the super glue, and then I've got my Bob Smith Industries super glue accelerator. This is a trick I actually learned from Artel W's YouTube channel, where you put the super glue in one of those little pallets, and then you use a toothpick to apply the super glue, especially in the tiny joint areas like the shoulders or the wrists. So here we go. I'm going to take my toothpick, and after I clipped and cleaned that little bit of flash, I'm going to put it mostly where the little pocket is toward the rear, because that's where the big wedge is going to sit. So I want the majority of the glue to be there. And then it's funny, I didn't even use any super glue accelerator for this first part, just because it fits so perfectly and the surface area is so wide. So yeah, you can see it just goes on right there. And now this is when I'm noticing a couple of tabs at the bottom of the cloak. I'm gonna need to snip those off. Before I do, I decided I'm gonna just get this guy on the base. This is the first figure of the larger sized miniatures in this set that is not standing on a cinematic piece of rock. So he's gonna go straight onto the base. And I decided, since I'm putting glue on the feet, I'll put the super glue accelerator on the base, and that's gonna create the join there. And here I'm just taking my clippers and snipping off those tabs of flash. So there you can see I just sprayed the super glue accelerator with the super glue on the soles of the boots. I just press it down and it instantly creates a bond, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Super glue one piece and spray the super glue accelerator on the other side. That's how you do it. Okay, now I'm putting the super glue into the side with the arm that's going to be holding the chainsword. This is going to be a little bit of a tricky one. You want to match the triangle tab on the arm to the triangle shape hole in the shoulder. And that's actually the best join of any limb that I've done in this set so far. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Now this little plastic paint palette is pretty cheap. I got it at a Walmart for I don't know, like a couple bucks for a pack of 6. And I think you can get an even bigger discount if you buy a bigger amount. But yeah, they're surprisingly cheap. And then when you put your super glue in there, it just makes so much more sense. Before I was just applying the super glue onto the miniature, and with how gummed up my applicator had gotten over the years, it just comes out like a big mess. There's so much more control when you pour all your super glue into a pot, a little pocket on the palette, and then use a toothpick to apply it precisely where you want it to be. That control is like miles and miles, day and night better than what I had been doing. All right, because I'm not using the Horn of Gondor, I'm using the One Does Not Simply hand. I'm going to be applying the super glue to the hand itself, and then just seeing if I can push it into the groove at exactly the right position. And of course, having the Bob Smith Industries super glue accelerator when you need it is a huge help. But because I'm able to precisely apply the super glue to the very tiny joints, then I don't need it as much. It kind of goes in exactly where it needs to. I'm able to push it into place and hold it there so this glue creates a connection. Then the head is so much fun because you kind of want to get the right angle that Sean Bean has in the film, and so you don't want it straight on. He's got a little bit of a cocky lean to it, ever so slightly, but you don't want him drooping too much to one side. But there you go, perfect right there. Look at that. One does not simply assemble a miniature from Artel W. I'm gonna put the Shield of Gondor now right into his back, and I love that they make the gap and the wedge like perfectly fitted, so it's not like a ball and socket join like Games Workshop does for their shoulders, where you can really angle the arms. They really want you to put these limbs in at a certain angle to create the best picture. And I think me 10 years ago would have been like, oh, I kind of want the freedom to be able to adjust it and angle everything correctly. But now I trust the artists, I trust the designers, because they knew what they were doing when they designed these things, exactly the pose they want. And yeah, here we go, players. The completed Crusader Bloodmere from Artel W's Brotherhood of the Nine. Love this miniature. I say I might love it even more than the Strider, Rogue Strider one. Definitely up there with the Gandalf and the Halflings. This is such a great, fun build, and I cannot wait to prime them all and get to painting them. So I hope you join me for that. Hit the like button, leave me a comment before you go. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and ring that bell so you can be notified anytime I post up new videos. One does not simply watch a Warboss Tay video. You gotta subscribe. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Latest, players!